Is it half full or half empty? Welcome back to the Keys podcast. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lilly. And we are still in the warm-up phase of bringing back the Keys podcast. So thank you for those that checked out last week's re-upload of episodes. As I mentioned, I was overthinking the whole process and I just decided, you know what, hit record, release, let's go. And at the time of this recording, it is technically Q3, July 7/11, which marks more than half of the year has gone by. How are you doing? The last official podcast I left you guys with was how to prepare for the following year. And that conversation is still applicable to 2025, 26, 27, and beyond. So I want to check in with you all today, as well as kind of give you a rundown of what I've been up to and what is ahead as we continuously warm up to full-fledged episodes. And if you like these little shorter, bite-sized episodes, let me know. Feedback is important. I want to talk and build with my community and see and provide exactly what you guys need instead of making this show all about me, because it's all about giving you all the keys to business, real estate, the mindset we need to be confident, to be successful, and to thrive in any industry, honestly, that we so choose, and in life in general. So is the cup half full or half empty? Me, exactly a year ago, I was very empty. I was struggling in my business in terms of what I wanted to do next. I was not happy with my situation and I didn't know how to get out of it, because I'm the type of person that once I commit to something, I'm all in. But I've never given myself the chance to outgrow something and be okay with fully letting it go. I'll gradually let something go, and next thing I know, 2 years have gone by. I've procrastinated, I've wasted time, or I just don't feel confident enough to say I'm done. Nod your head or raise your hand or give me a clap if you've been in that situation before, because summer 2024, I was in the dumps. That's the best way I can put it. And I knew that I can either sit here on this couch and be depressed, which I did spend a few days, weeks doing that. But after a while, I had to dig deep into who I am and who I was and who I wanted and needed to be moving forward. And I realized I had just turned 40. I'm halfway through the year and I'm about to be 41. I no longer have the same connection to my career as I did 5 years ago, even a year ago. The people I'm surrounding myself with, it's just not the same. I just needed something fresh. I needed a renewal. And in those times where I was down and out, but I was still getting my work done, I was still showing up, but I was showing up with a bad attitude. I was showing up angry. I was showing up bitter. I was showing up resentful of the work I had and not truly appreciating it, not being thankful or grateful for it. And most of all, or worst of all, I wasn't creating my next plan. I wasn't creating or taking those next steps. I didn't know what my next steps were. I was just living in my misery. As many of you may or may not know, I am self-employed. I quit my job in 2018, mainly to be a caretaker for my family and eventually transaction coordination. Much like a boomerang, I was trying to let it go. It somehow found its way back into my life. And I built a TC business out from the ground up with 15 years prior office real estate experience, TC experience, but no business experience. And the first couple of years were great financially. I was making more money than I'd ever seen in my life, but I didn't have the acumen, the business acumen, to know how to actually run a business. And I didn't have the state or the level of emotional intelligence that I needed to endure what it is to be self-employed. I didn't have the discipline to completely follow through in the things I was doing. I didn't have the ability to build a business that required me to show up every day and market myself, tell people what I was doing. So after a couple of years, I lost my grandma in the process, who I was initially taking care of, which was a blessing. I got to be with her in her final year, and that taught me a lot about myself in terms of, why am I doing any of this? Why does any of this matter? You can go back in past episodes where I've talked about it, but the keys episode is going to be a lot more in depth. We're not going to do any real estate trainings or talk about transaction coordination in detail. You can visit transactioncare.com for that. Here on the keys, we get real. We're unlocking not just the pathway to career freedom and to the best you, but unlocking those moments that became pivotal moments, core memories, or even the final straw, the deciding factor that made you realize, I'm done. I'm ready to move on and do something new. Surround myself with different people, travel the world, quit my job, start a new job, start a business, whatever the case may be, right? The world is at our hands. It's just up to us to decide which first step are we going to take. So last year in my summer of despair, I was freshly 40 and rediscovering who I was. And in those summer months, I started to work out. I started to do little things to get me outside of my comfort zone, meaning I'm familiar with the gym. I've played sports all my life, but I've never done a step class. Let me go do a step class. That was also my way of staying in connection with friends because I was starting to feel like I was isolating again. I can be a person that isolates very easily, that can be alone and be fine. But in this particular time in my life, I felt myself going down a hole I didn't want to be stuck in. So I realized it's up to me to initiate fun activities or to do things I enjoy, be around people I like. Just simply do something other than be sad. And eventually that turned into feeling better about myself, realizing I am capable of doing more. But I also don't have to force myself to be in this rat race. I can just exist as I am. So I started to fill my cup back up. I had to, because at that point in time, it was completely empty. So I had no other way to go but up. I eventually sat down with my money. I looked at my savings and I said, you know what? I have enough to survive the rest of the summer and throughout the year. I'm not going to put pressure on myself to keep building this business that I'm not enjoying, that I'm not happy with. I want to redirect my energy towards things that bring me fulfillment, where I can provide value to others, where I can help many. And that's why I had to step away from the podcast. I had to step away from transaction coordination. I had to step away from, hey, want to work together? Constantly marketing myself, constantly posting on social media. I walked away from it all. And I simply just enjoyed life. Now, I know to some that may sound like, wow, her life sounds amazing. It sounds perfect. Well, that entire summer and the rest of 2024 eventually ended up being one of my most toughest and difficult years, but also one of the most valuable years of my life. It stretched me, it challenged me, it pushed me in directions that I wasn't capable of doing on my own. And I knew this was beyond me. This was God. God was taking over, because after a while, I started to change my relationship with people in my life. I started to look at the way I was using my time, not just with adding fitness, but that helped me to realize, oh my God, I drink too much. I party too much. The reason I'm miserable is because I'm getting older. I can't handle my liquor like I used to. I'm spending so much money partying and going around in Lyfts and Ubers and buying food. Of course I'm going to be miserable. I'm doing a job I don't enjoy, and then I'm spending money. Yeah, I'm having fun, but I'm leaving parties or events, functions, just hungover and tired, which leaves me no energy to put into new projects that I want to start or try. And by the end of 2024, all of it came crashing down. And when I say all of it, I mean all of it. I won't get into too many details because that is a little bit more personal, but I will say I had to really pray and surrender at the end of the year, because the direction I was heading in, I knew there was a shift ahead, but I was so terrified of the unknown and having to let go of the familiar that if I didn't basically drop down to my knees and pray and surrender and give it up to God, I would still be in that miserable space I was just 365 days ago. So whether you believe in God or have faith or are spiritual or even an atheist, this is not me speaking to convert you or anything. This is just my truth and how it impacted my business. Because as the new year was approaching, I felt that shift. And like I said, I was at that crossroads. And I've only said this prayer 2 times and meant it with conviction. And the words I uttered were, please remove the distractions from my life that are preventing me from moving forward. And when I said things fell apart and crumbled and were unlike anything I had known prior to that, they did. Friendships, partying, fitness, money, all of it just gone, done. And at first I was shocked because it almost felt like it was happening overnight. But this is really in a span of almost 2 months, around October, November, and some of December. So no joke. Sometimes those curveballs in life aren't meant for you to miss, but meant for you to focus a little harder, to study a little harder, to be more disciplined, to be more relaxed in order for you to make contact and hit those goals. Enter these new phases and spaces of your life. Start that new career that you've been putting on the shelf, procrastinating about. Starting that podcast back up. Launching a coaching business. These are all things that I had put on a shelf and didn't know what to do with because I wasn't good on the inside. Because I was operating from an empty cup. And looking back to even just the beginning of 2025, I am so grateful all of that happened. I couldn't have done that on my own. But I knew deep down, even when I was going through it, when I was sad, when I was sitting on my couch, but when I finally took those first steps, let me go take it literally, first steps towards doing step aerobics, first steps towards, I need to quit drinking, quitting drinking at the top of the year, or the end of 2025, accepting and letting go of friendships that I've held on to for years that were no longer in alignment. Having to learn how to recommunicate with people that are in my life, being honest and vulnerable with telling them what's going on and saying, hey, I need help. Or I just need you to listen. Not in an authoritative way, but in a vulnerable, hey, I'm going through it and this is what's been going on. And ever since I made those decisions and embarked on this new year and started fresh. When I mean fresh, I mean bank account clean. People I share my energy and space with out of the picture. I literally had a fresh start. And each day as this year began, I started to add to my life and give back and do other things that were unconventional to what I had previously done. Humbling myself, leading with gratitude and thankfulness. And also, eventually, letting go of clients. So I could make time for projects like this podcast, investing back into my coaching business and really taking that seriously. Because one thing about coaching, I haven't ever had a job or a career or even a hobby that's brought me so much fulfillment to the point where I just want to keep doing more and more of it. But everyone knows when you're building something from scratch or from the bottom up, it's not going to be easy, no matter how much you love it, enjoy it, or took courses and classes on it. It's going to require you to dig deep in those times when nothing is happening. And looking back at my year, when nothing was happening a year ago and I was just stuck in my misery and stuck in my despair, I dug myself out and built myself back up and was totally fine starting fresh. I got rid of old clothes. I got rid of old shoes. I sold things that I was thinking I was going to just archive for the rest of my life. Nope, we let it go. Let it go. And now as I'm rebuilding my coaching business, finding new parts of me, rediscovering parts of me that have always existed, but I never gave myself a chance to shine in those moments. This is partly what this show is going to be about, is not just documenting that process, but also hearing the stories of other people in these situations and how we can be inspired or motivated and encouraged by their story. I'm also going to continue with the solo episodes, maybe some story times, but most importantly, my goal is to provide you, those listening, with the value you need to feel confident, to feel encouraged, to feel motivated, to take those first steps into filling your cup. Many of you come to me in my DMs, in my emails, and ask me, how do I become a transaction coordinator? How do I run a business? How do I start a business? The steps are easy. But that saying, trust the process, that's all that in-between junk that we often ignore when we're starting something brand new. And if I didn't spend the last year working on that in-between, the process, the junk, simply doing the work, I would have been in the same exact place I was last year. So, thank you again for listening. We're going to continue these conversations, not just about my life, but I want to hear from you all. If you want to be a guest on the show, feel free to email me, thekeyswork@gmail.com. Yes, that is my email, thekeyswork@gmail.com. I want to start these conversations to motivate, to inspire, and you don't have to work in real estate to come on the show either. The main part of the foundation of the show is rooted in business and real estate and mindset, but most importantly, it's just giving you the real, these honest feelings and of vulnerability, learning how to be vulnerable, learning how to fall and get back up and know what true confidence in myself feels like, in yourself. And we're in this together, one day at a time. There's no pressure to be everything that you see on TV at the age of 40, or you have it all together by the age of 30. But what I do know for sure is we all have that grit, that dog, that resilience, the capabilities within us to do more than we set ourselves out to each and every day, that we allow ourselves to experience each and every day. So stay tuned, more episodes to come. I know I said this was a warm-up and that conversation got a little bit intense, but if you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. If you don't mind just leaving a rating, a 5-star review, or a 5-star rating, that would be greatly appreciated. It goes really far and it does help to push the show out to more listeners. And if you want to learn more about the show, The Keys Podcast, simply visit thekeyspodcast.com. And if you'd like to work together, collaborate, or even sponsor an episode or many episodes, you can email me, thekeyswork@gmail.com. thekeyswork@gmail.com. And we can start a dialogue and go from there. But more episodes to come. There's no official schedule for the show just yet. Like I said, we're just warming up, but I just wanted to come back into your airwaves and reacclimate to talking into a mic, recording myself, editing the show, putting it back out, because that is the junk, the process, the stuff in between that I dread. I love podcasting, but having to record, edit, that's the stuff that has led to a lot of my procrastination. So here we are, back at it again, 2 episodes deep. Thank you again for listening. I truly appreciate you. And if you have any questions for me or want to know more about my story, just stay tuned. Stay tuned, everyone, and visit thekeyspodcast.com to learn more. And most importantly, if you want to schedule a one-on-one coaching session with me, that is also available at thekeyspodcast.com. Everything will live on that website. And if you want to learn more about my coaching services specifically, then visit my personal website, LillianHernandez.com. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you again for listening and tuning in. Stay tuned for the next episode of The Keys Podcast. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lilly. Talk soon.